The Metropolitan Police failure to investigate and mistreatment of victims. This video is to break down the failures of the Metropolitan Police whilst trying to seek justice and speak the truth to stop the abuse. This officer, PC Downs, stated the following in response to a police complaint the parent of the exploited child made. Due to a tainted and misled investigation, this is their response. Firstly, I would like to point out that Barnet Council had entered the wrong name for the officer involved. This would be a breach of GDPR, as documents should be true and factual. Plus, an officer using two names would not be the correct conduct. You see here where it clearly states attendees, Kate, Child Abuse Investigation Team, Chloe Papakarish. Clearly admits the name recorded on the minutes was Chloe Papakarish, but in fact it was a detective inspector called Cleo Papakristo. Why have we got fake names registered on official documents? Breach of GDPR regulations, along with using fraudulent unregistered names in professional documents regarding child exploitation investigations. So we have just established that it wasn't Chloe Papakarish, it was in fact the Detective Inspector Cleo Papakristo. Next, I would like to read out this section of the response and explain the issues with the said response. Let's start with paragraph 1.
I have requested the full copy of these documents from Barnet Council. However, they have not been provided to me. Despite inquiries with the Kate team and our multi-agency safeguarding hub, MASH, I have been unable to allocate the original documents.
Red flags. 1. Police officers using false names. 2. Council refused to provide original documents despite police requests. 3. How can the complaints officer think that this is normal considering the allegations?
As mentioned earlier in my report, DI Papakaristo provided her response to this complaint and recalled that no allegation or disclosure of offences had been made to the police. She also explained the reason why child abuse officers would not always necessarily speak to the child. In all cases, i.e. if they had already been spoken to by safeguarding officers or social workers.
Red flag number 4. How could a child victim make an allegation to a police officer if one never spoke to her? Following the Working Together to Safeguard Children policy, each organisation cannot assume another will take the appropriate action, and due to criminal allegations is a police officer's sole responsibility. The complaints manager mentioned how Barnet would not provide the original documents, meaning the outcome of this complaint was based on the hearsay of a detective inspector, Cleo Papakristo, aka Chloe Papakarish. Now I would like to break down the alleged detective's hearsay that led to leap-of-faith decisions that nearly cost the victim's life, and 8 years of emotional abuse, harassment and mental torture, leading to a suicide attempt.
LADO meeting convened and actions agreed. As a result of review and research following the LADO, strategy may have changed, i.e. social worker would have also spoken with, and had a disclosure been made, this would have been shared with police. Detective Inspector Papakristo further stated, all decisions made were in the best interests of the child, now an adult. The child had made no allegation of grooming to police or to social services. She was spoken to on 3 different occasions by 3 agencies.
Detective Inspector Papakristo stated, no allegation of grooming to police or social services, and was spoken to on 3 occasions. Well, we beg to differ. Let's show you the evidence. This meeting was had in the same centre that the National Lotto stopped funding. You can clearly see Chloe Papakarish attended, and below is an extract from the minutes to that very meeting clearly showing the child made a clear allegation. The extract reads as follows.
Presented as an outspoken and articulate child, she told the social worker that Breda took her out and did bad stuff. When pushed for more information, she said stealing. She said Breda was shoplifting with the intention of showing her how to do it. The conversation was stopped at this point as the social worker wanted to continue this questioning in the presence of her mother, who was not home at the time.
this detective inspector is clearly lying and the council are hiding evidence. I would say that is perverting the course of justice. Here you will see another professionals meeting. Please notice no police was invited and no further meetings planned. So more evidence to prove the council also prevented a fair investigation again in 2018. Again perverting the course of justice to prevent legal accountability. As seen here, no apology from police for not attending, as they were not invited. Now you will see and hear extracts from the meeting minutes, all speaking on evidence of crimes, but no police invited, and no further meetings planned. Let's take a look. Independent social worker Tia Filivi shares the following.
Tia shared that there is evidence that Miss Maguire is stepping up her campaign of intimidation and harassment against Andrea and her children. Tia explained that Andrea's perception of being punished for whistleblowing against Breda is a valid one. Her and her children have been barred from using the community centre, yet Breda continues to have access. Her concern about her and her children feeling isolated and living in fear due to the increased harassment from Breda and friends is not being taken seriously by police or housing.
Social worker Marv Campbell stated the following.
She is doing her best to safeguard her children. Therefore, from CSC perspective, the only appropriate intervention is to advocate on the family's behalf. Marva Campbell tried to impress on the representatives that if, in the event of Mrs. O'Shaughnessy carrying out any of her threats and a serious case review is conducted, the evidence will show that support agencies missed opportunities to intervene. No further meetings were planned.
Independent social worker Tia Filivi states there is evidence of harassment and intimidation of Andrea and her children, also explaining the victim's feelings of being punished for whistleblowing are valid. We demand the Public Interest Disclosure Act is upheld with immediate effect. Marva Campbell states, if the victim follows through with threats and a serious case review is conducted, it will show all support services missed chances to intervene. This meeting was before any suicide attempt, which could have been prevented should professionals uphold the law. Just to recap, after breaking down paragraph 1 and 2, these are our findings. 6 red flags, 2 paragraphs. 1. A detective inspector using 2 names. 2. Social worker failed to report the child's allegation of criminal exploitation to the police, allegedly. 3. Detective inspector stated no allegation was made, despite clearly being part of a meeting where the child's allegation to social worker is clearly documented. 4. Detective inspector allowed a social worker whose organization had a conflict of interest due to allegations to question the child, assuming the social worker would fulfill her role. 5. Barnet Council failed to provide original documents despite clear requests from police regarding serious allegations. And 6. We have a PC complaints officer that cannot see red flags and failures when in front of her. Back to paragraph 4, 5 and 6 from Francesca Downs, Department of Professional Standards response. Before I read the next paragraph, please be reminded that this lady has already admitted that Barnet Council refused to provide any of the original documents from the original investigation.
It is unfortunate that there is no record of police decisions available to review. During a telephone conversation with D.I. Papagaristo, she informed me that ordinarily actions would be documented. However, over 5 years on, she could not account for why this was not the case here.
Paragraph 4. Red flags. Council original documents not provided, and police records are non-existent. The evidence proves the child made clear allegations. So the questions are, where are the original documents from police and council? Why are the documents being hidden? And why are the police failing to take an adequate report and statement following the victim's code? With no direct documents from either police or children's social services, no fair evaluation of any crime can be conducted following the 4 steps of criminal intelligence, meaning the results of this complaint was based on hearsay from an officer using 2 names and not evidence, leading to police misconduct, failure to investigate, and a clear breach of the victim's code. PT Francesca Downs, Department of Professional Standards, paragraph 5 and 6 continues.
Whilst Detective Inspector Papagaristo may not have spoken to you or your daughter directly, She was part of a multi-agency response to the allegation made by you. Decisions in relation to complaints are made on the balance of probabilities. Although limited in the evidence I have been able to review, I am of the opinion that there is sufficient to indicate that safeguarding of your daughter was a priority and an appropriate outcome was reached.
Red flags, paragraph 5 and 6. The officer claimed the allegation was made by the parent, but evidence shows different. Official documents that can be used in court as evidence. 2. By the officer admitting that the detective never spoke to the victims would mean no fair analysis of the crime could ever be conducted, as all evidence and statements were not collected, and the social worker, according to your response, failed to report the allegation from said child. The detective speaking to the child could have prevented the last 8 years of torture for the family. The truth would have been told and justice served. 3. Officer clearly states she is of the opinion, and I suggest D.I. Papacharisto was working from hearsay, needing the officer to come to this completely unfounded opinion/outcome, as no evidence was used or original document from police or Barnet Council. Again, resulting in no fair outcome or investigation, just leap of faith decisions leaving families and victims at risk. More to come. Subscribe to YouTube and turn on notifications.
Public interest disclosure, Barnet Council. In the best interests of my family and others. Breaking news. Barnet Council's John Hooton allows a cover-up of child exploitation to avoid legal accountability.